Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the August 7th meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. I would like to start off with an item of continued business, an enforcement order. The violation location is 100 Lexington Avenue. An enforcement order has been issued to Brian Kearney for clearing brush, vines, and other vegetation within the 100-foot buffer zone of a protected wetland and within the 100-year floodplain. We have received some photos after a site visit performed by the conservation staff, and it appears that they are satisfied with the items that were noted in the enforcement order. So does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? Okay.
My property.
Hi, good evening. Come on up.
Myself, it's my property, so.
So yeah, we got the photos. Thanks for taking care of it. It was satisfactory to me. It was satisfactory to the staff. I have no issue with moving forward. Okay.
I can make a motion to rescind the enforcement order.
Second motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen,
Thank you.
for your time.
Appreciate you coming. Next up, we have another enforcement order, 129 Llewellyn Street and 115 Christian Street. This item has been part of lengthy discussions, both for an RDA and for this enforcement order. It has been appealed. Our decision on the RDA has been appealed to Mass DEP, and that case had not been heard yet, although a site visit has been scheduled.
That's correct.
Okay. We had elected to continue this to this meeting, hoping that the DEP would have heard it, but it doesn't appear that that's the case. So our next meeting is September 4th, I think.
Give me 1 second.
September 11th? September 11th.
Motion to continue to September 11th.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right, motion continued to September 11th. New business, request for determination of applicability, MassDOT Highway. Project location is Princeton Boulevard, Route 3A. A request for determination of applicability has been filed by Mass DOT Highway Division to conduct drainage maintenance along Princeton Boulevard at Black Brook Culvert. The proposed work is within 100-foot buffer zone of the Black Brook. Is there anyone here from DOT?
Hi, Alexa, on Zoom.
Good evening. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Alexa Marquis from GPI, representing the applicant, Mass DOT District 4 office.
Can you tell us a little bit about the project?
Absolutely. So the project, and if I could share my screen.
Yes, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Second. Okay. So the project consists of replacing the grate at this head wall inlet right here. It goes underneath Route 3A across from Pratt Ave. And we would be replacing this grate and then also removing any debris that has collected in this spot as well. So as you can see, it's in not the best condition. There would be sediment and erosion control measures that would be put in place, like a silt turbidity fence, just to keep any of the sediment from getting inside while this is being removed. There's a couple other photos. As you can see, there's like an umbrella in there. It's in some pretty not great shape. Here is just a small markup of what we would be doing for work. So there would be temporary impacts to bank and then land underwater just so that we can remove any of the debris that's there, but it would not consist of any type of dredge or fill. So I'd like to open it up for questions if the commission has any or comments.
Sure, there's a bunch of dead wood, looks like laying near that grate. Will that be removed during the course of construction?
Yep, so any of the debris that has got up in here, and then this as well. See if I can get a little bit of a better image here. Yeah, so that would all be taken out just so that we can establish, you know, some better conditions for this culvert.
And what machinery would you be using, do you know?
I would think probably a small excavator just to get anything out, and it would be up on the roadway.
The plan seems reasonable to me. Any other questions? Okay. A motion?
I'll make a motion to grant a -3.
Second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks for your presentation, and good luck with your project.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, we have a notice of intent from the Markley Group. Project location 2 Princeton Avenue, 1 Markley Way. A notice of intent has been filed by the Markley Group to install new generators and utility infrastructure within the 100-foot buffer zone of a protected wetland. Good evening. Welcome back.
Good evening. Thank you for having me again. My name is Anna John, and I'm a civil engineer with Stantec. I'm joined tonight by Aaron Fernandez, Lee Cleveland, and Ed Brown of the Markley Group, and we're here to present the generator NOI filing. So Dylan, if you can go to the next slide. You'll remember we were here last year and also last month to present on the parking lot project, which is underway and currently on schedule, no changes from last month. And this is the previously approved overall plan. But Dylan, if you click once, you'll see a red box pop up. So that is the zoomed in area that we'll be focusing on for this filing. It is the generators that are going on top of the wall that's currently under construction in the approved plan. So Dylan, if you go to the next slide. This was previously shown with dashed lines that said future generators because we didn't know at the time what exactly they would look like or what their exact dimensions were, but now we do. So we did submit this filing that shows there are 2 existing generators that are shown kind of in the aerial on the bottom right corner of the plan. And then there are 18 additional total, so 18 proposed generators that are going within the south side of the road and the north side of the road within that wall that's under construction. And 2 of those generators will actually sit about 5 feet higher. So that's the area that you see on the right. And there is an extension of that previously proposed retaining wall. So there will be 2 additional legs to kind of support those 2 additional generators that will be set up higher to match the elevation of the roadway. And Dylan, if you go to the next slide. So this is the site prep plan. And as we mentioned in our filing, there is some utility infrastructure work that needs to be done here. We did a pre-construction CCTV of the existing 30-inch RCP culvert, which takes most of the drainage from the site and goes out through the river wall to Hales Brook. We did observe on that pre-con video that there was a sizable crack along the top of the pipe, so that needs to be repaired. So this is more like maintenance type work, but as we're repairing it, it sits on a diagonal today, and we're going to straighten that out so that it runs directly between generators rather than diagonally across and below one of them. So you'll see that here. We show some caps and abandonments, and there's more detail on that on the utility plan. And if you go to the next slide, this is just a copy of the layout plan that was included in the submission. It's consistent with what you saw in the rendering, but there are some switch boxes on the left, generators in the center, and then that additional retaining wall off to the right side. Next slide is the grading plan. So this is generally consistent with the previous plans that you've seen, with the exception of the addition on the right side of those extra 2 generators and that additional wall. And on the next slide, you have the utility plan. So you'll see the 30-inch RCP replacement that is running parallel between 2 generators. And then you'll also see a second line That's kind of like a belt and suspenders approach if anything were to ever happen, to try to minimize any ground disturbance or impact to the generator in the future. We are not increasing any flow. The flows are still the same from the previous approval. This is just like in case of emergency as an overflow line. And on the next slide, you'll see, this is just a refresher, what the site looked like when the Markley Group acquired it in 2015. And then on the next slide, we have a picture of what it currently looks like today, where the site enabling and grading work is happening in preparation for the retaining wall installation under the previous approval. So with that, I will open it up to the commission for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Most of my concerns about this project are in prior decisions. I am definitely concerned about adding two more catch basins, or two more structures, excuse me, right at the edge of the brook. Typically, we consider the 25-foot line to be a no disturb zone.
Yes, so those additional two are just within the 100-foot. They're actually kind of past where the brook takes a bend, but I definitely acknowledge the concern.
So, I thought, you'll have to excuse me, I thought that, can you bring that back up again? The slide with the
Yeah, if you go
grading and drainage plan?
grading and drainage, or the rendering has the buffer zones highlighted on it if it's a little easier to see, if that's what you wanted to look at. If you go to the next slide, Dylan, I think that's the clearest view of where the 25-foot offset and then the 100-foot buffer is.
So, it looks to me like DMH 202 and 203 are within the 25-foot.
Oh, the drainage structures, yes. I was talking about the additional generators, but these structures, yes, are within the 25-foot.
So, I certainly understand the need for, or the desire for an overflow structure in the case that there is, some maintenance work that needs to be done, or a clog or something. And I suppose that adding one is no better than adding two is no more damaging than adding one. But I'm really hesitant. This is something that we typically would not allow. I can, understand that maybe now under construction might be less damaging than in the future under, without machinery there. But I already feel like we've given you more space in the, in the inside of the 25-foot buffer than we should have. I mean, anything inside of the retaining wall, to me, is a non-issue. We've allowed it. And I'm kind of undecided about how to feel about this. Anybody else from the board?
Just to echo your concerns, completely acknowledged, and it is our intent to avoid any additional disturbance in the future. A, from a buffer zone perspective, and B, just logistically, it would be really difficult to get any machinery back there in case of emergency to manage the drain line. The one structure is required based on the maintenance work that's needed for that pipe. It is the second additional structure, so the one all the way to the right of the screen. That is for future emergency bypass if required.
So, I mean, it's clear that you have installed these so that there's a potential of being able to work on them between the generators without disturbing the generators.
Yep.
which the current one isn't the case. Is it possible to extend one of these drainage structures further away from the river and push this whole, the backup line further right, so you're not installing a second structure?
Yeah, it's a really good question. There is a lot of electric infrastructure in that road, so there's a lot of tight crossings that we're trying to avoid. We could definitely look at it, but part of the reason for keeping them close together is to dodge the electric crossings that are needed for the generator infrastructure.
Could you install a double wide structure instead of the second structure and have the backup line go diagonally underneath one of the generators?
I wouldn't recommend it just from a loading perspective, but one thing we could do is look at installing an elbow instead of a structure on the low side for the bypass line, if that is less intrusive than the structure itself.
I mean, odds are you're never going to need to touch the second pipe, either of these pipes.
That's the goal.
So the first line, could it be repaired?
It could be relined, but we wouldn't recommend it due to the generator loading and the condition of the crack. It is pretty significant. So it's our recommendation to replace and relocate it on a proper alignment to suit the use.
I mean, so the line fits in between these two generators, but in reality, you're not going to be able to do much without disturbing the generators.
So the stairs are actually removable.
Yeah.
If anything were to get done, the stairs could pop up. It would be difficult, but
Yeah, you got a 30-inch line in a 48-inch gap.
yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, my preference would be to repair and utilize the line and utilize that as a backup. If we're gonna give you an extra path, to me, we've created two redundancies here. And I know that you want to remove the existing line,
Yeah.
but this is a lot of work, a lot more work right next to the brook that, it seems like, how long are these generators likely to last?
Hopefully longer than me.
And how long is an RCP gonna last?
Say 50 plus?
So,
Yeah.
the size of these pipes doesn't, stuff doesn't get stuck in a 36-inch pipe.
Yeah,
It's just water.
right. We're
and-
not worried about clogs, just like the structural integrity of the pipe due to everything above and around it, but I completely hear your point.
Well, if you're worried about the structural integrity of the pipe, then you've got two problems.
Well, that's the idea of relocating it so it's not below.
Sure, but maybe one of these is acceptable, and you find a way to create the second as, the existing as a backup.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so this is just thoughts of how to minimize this work.
I agree.
I understand the desire for it. I don't really even want to allow it, but this does need some amendment, I think.
We would be open to removing that second bypass line, so just adding the one line with the structure at the bottom, if that's acceptable to the commission.
Have you built the retaining wall along is that the north?
So it's under construction right now. That was that last photo towards the end of the presentation. It's just dirt at the moment. They're working on installing the wall and doing ground preparation for that. So that should be completed by the previously approved NOI's expiration date in March.
Does the excavation for that extend out towards where these structures are? Have you already disturbed that far, that distance
Yeah,
towards the brook?
we have, yeah. So there is an
So
existing
put in,
line of trees and a silt sock that you can kind of see in that photo, but it's disturbed all the way up to that point. So we wouldn't be disturbing any further.
so you're not going to be doing any further disturbing to
No.
put these structures in? It's already been done.
Right.
Thank you.
Would it be possible to get the structure on the other side of the retaining wall?
On the high side,
On the, yeah, inside, so that way if you need to address the structure, you're behind the retaining wall?
I don't think from an elevation perspective that would work with the outlet at the river wall, and we're doing everything we can to not touch that outlet. So the last 10 feet at the river are going to remain. So that's why we're putting a structure like a doghouse on top of it.
The last 10 feet are going to remain.
Yeah,
What-
so
Of which pipe? Say that again?
the existing RCP that goes from the existing building to the brook, it goes out through the river wall at the brook.
Out of the existing structure, into the brook, that section?
That's a proposed structure, but yes.
Oh, the catch basin is proposed?
Yes, so it's one structure to tie in,
Oh, okay.
so it makes a 90. So there's a proposed doghouse manhole with a catch basin rim, and then there's a proposed manhole that has it take a 90.
Got
goes
it,
below
got
the
it, got
wall.
it. Sorry, I
Yeah, no worries.
misunderstood that. What if you were to keep the line on the right side, bring the manhole to the other side of the wall, and then you've got a little bit of extra length to reduce, you're not bringing that angle so far. If you were to just do one pipe, would you leave the existing pipe?
Sorry, what was that?
If you were just to install one new pipe between the generators, one out of these two shown, would you would you keep and repair the existing one, or would you just have one outlet?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the logistics of repairing that RCP is us having to go into the river
Yeah.
to run the machinery. It's a line pipe. It's
Yeah.
a line. It's like a polymer lined pipe.
Yeah.
So they run it up from the riverside to the catch basin, and then they run UV light through it to cure it. So it would require machinery in the river.
Yeah.
So you just said that you were okay with the idea of just keeping one of these pipes. If you just install one of them, would you repair the existing pipe or not?
No, I believe we would have to cap it and abandon it in place. So it would
Yeah.
just be like it is today, one 30-inch pipe that goes out to the brook.
Okay. So,
But that would require this catch basin, right?
Yes, the catch basin would be required, but
yeah, you need the catch basin anytime you add a new pipe,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you keep the pipe to the right and bring the manhole on the other side of the retaining wall, you can come into that doghouse really, because it's a new structure, so you can come into that at whatever angle you want. You're not changing the elevations of the pipe, you're just bringing that manhole on the other side and putting it into the pit, into the gravel area at these generators.
Yeah, so it would become like a much taller structure.
Yeah, it has to have it's a much taller head on it, but the inlets and the outlets shouldn't change at all.
And then the last segment of that connecting pipe would run below one of the generators.
I mean, maybe a little bit of it at the right at the top of the generator. Yes,
Yep.
you have probably a couple foot long triangle that sticks into one of the corners. This keeps much more work out of that, in the retaining wall, serviceable. This area is not always going to be serviceable, really. You'll have drain manholes out that you'll need to clear brush to get to, as opposed to this where you can just walk down the gravel and pop the manhole cover and get in it. Is it something that you'd be willing to consider?
Because we're open to getting rid of the bypass line, I would feel a lot more comfortable if the last segment didn't go below one of the generators. I think just from like a design perspective, that would be the preference. I hear your point, but because that area is already disturbed, I don't know if there's that much benefit in taking that approach.
Does that, the width of these generators reduces here in this image? I assume that this is what it actually looks like. Is this, is that, does that part even touch the ground?
The back of the
Or
generator?
is it, I don't know what that section of it is. I can't imagine it's got the same
like
weight that the rest of it has.
Is it like an intake or exhaust?
The very ends of the generator are not, they're plenum sound reduction. So it's where the air intake and outlet for the generators are. So it is much less weight. Off the ground, it's probably 2 feet off the ground in that area, but with posts to hold up the hood itself. So
Yeah, it's just holding up a little sheet metal.
it's a little heavier than that, but
I mean, it's big. It's a big piece of sheet metal, but
it's sheet metal. Sheet metal with sound. It's sheet metal with sound reducing blocks in it. So it's but it's much less than
something that could easily be supported if you were to have to, you can just cross brace this to the other two to get underneath this thing. It's not like, it's already held up on posts. You could easily suspend that thing from the other units, from the other structures near here, and get to that pipe that's underneath this section that we're talking about. It's not even through the middle of it. It's through the tip of the edge of it.
I can't picture it in my head
Yeah.
where that would be. That's a 10 foot change in elevation.
Yeah, it's a 10-foot-ish, 9 feet from the top of the wall to the bottom.
From a design's perspective, that's
Yeah.
That's just putting a couple more cones on top of the manhole. I mean, yeah,
I'm just not a civil engineer.
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, a taller structure isn't a problem. It's more just the angles and going below a generator and a retaining wall on an angle that makes this a little more difficult from a design perspective. And again, I understand the concern. I just don't know if it's worth the benefit given the current condition of the area and the project schedule.
I mean, you're proposing this like it's a freebie.
What do you mean?
We've given you a lot more than I think we should have here. And now you're asking for more work inside of the 25-foot buffer. This is not something that we should be minimizing the impact to that buffer in all cases.
Yep, I agree.
And a diagonal along a retaining wall, it's not like we're talking about that much more of crossing other than, compared to it being perpendicular. I can't accept it being that easy. I'd like you to relook at it.
Okay, we can definitely look at it. And again, like I said, I hear your point. If we remove the other bypass line from a design perspective, nothing changes. It's just the crossing at that wall. But if that is the one item for the commission, we can absolutely look at that.
Yeah, I don't have anything else here that, these three structures and their associated piping are the areas of concern for me. Like I said before, the rest is inside of area that's already yours to do as you wish.
Well, we would be open, similar to last year. We can submit a plan for record that shows that change that you've requested. So it'll just be the one structure on the low side of the wall, and we'll show a taller structure inbound of the wall near the generators and remove the bypass pipe.
He's drawing it.
Sticking it in here, right?
Yeah, either there or here.
Or on that one?
Yeah, and it'd be as close to the wall as you can get, and then one pipe that goes from there.
You're talking.
Yeah, that.
like that.
Marking it up.
Yeah.
You want to send that over?
And removing this one in its entirety.
Yeah.
Or the other one. You want to see his markup? Looks great to me. I don't know. Anybody else? We have the opportunity to accept these proposed changes. We can request to see it drawn before we do approve.
See it drawn.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. In its proximity to the wetlands, I don't think this is something that we should be approving after the fact or administratively.
Okay.
Why don't you double check to make sure that you can construct a retaining wall on that diagonal?
Yep.
You know, if you tell me that what I came up with doesn't work, I will understand, but I hope that you can think as creatively as we were able to do here today.
Yep. Understood. We will make that revision and send it.
So we're looking for a motion to continue to the September 11th meeting.
Motion to continue September 11th meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. 7:17 meeting minutes for approval. Any comments? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anything else? Dylan?
Motion to adjourn.
Nothing else.
All right. Final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.